The night wind moved slowly across the savannah, carrying dust, whispers, and old secrets. In the village of Cumorah, drums did not beat without reason. That night, they beat low and slow, like a heart warning of trouble. Old men sat near the fire, their faces glowing red and gold. Women pulled their wrappers tighter as the air turned cold. Children were called indoors. Something unseen was walking. At the edge of the village stood the great compound of Chief Dandolo. Tall mud walls circled it like a silent guard. Inside lived power, wealth, and many lies. That was where Abini stood. She was a black woman in her early 30s, tall, quiet, with eyes that had seen too much pain. Her skin shone softly under the moonlight. She wore a simple brown dress and leather sandals worn by long journeys. Dust covered her feet, but her back was straight. She had returned after many seasons away. No one welcomed her. Villagers watched from a distance. Some whispered her name with fear, others with guilt. Elders lowered their eyes. They all remembered the girl who once ran barefoot by the river, laughing. They also remembered the night she was sent away in shame. Abini stepped closer to the compound gate. 2 guards stood there, holding long spears. Their faces were hard, trained not to feel. But when they saw her, one guard's hand shook. "She has come back," he whispered. The other guard swallowed. "After all these years." Abini raised her head. Her voice was calm, but strong. "I have a message," she said. The guards looked at each other. No visitor spoke like that. No woman spoke like that at the chief's gate. "A message for who?" one guard asked. "For the one who sits on stolen ground," Abini replied. The wind grew louder. Somewhere, an owl cried. The guards did not understand her words, but fear moved through them. One guard turned and ran inside to announce her arrival. The other guard stayed, watching her closely. "You should not be here," he said. "This land rejected you." Abini's lips did not smile. "Land does not reject its blood," she answered. "People do." The guard felt a chill. Inside the compound, Chief Dandolo sat on his carved wooden throne. Cowrie shells decorated the walls. Animal skins covered the floor. A fire burned low, sending shadows dancing like spirits. He was older now, heavy with power and comfort. Rings filled his fingers. His eyes were sharp, but tired. A servant knelt before him. "Chief, there is a woman at the gate. She says she brings a message." Chief Dandolo frowned. "At this hour?" "Yes, my chief. She says the land knows her name." The fire cracked loudly. The chief's jaw tightened. For a moment, fear crossed his face, but he quickly hid it. "Send a guard to hear her message," he said. "I will not meet her." Outside, the guard returned to Abini. "The chief will not see you," he said. "Speak your message to me." Abini nodded slowly. This was expected. She reached into the small cloth bag tied around her waist. The guard tightened his grip on the spear. From the bag, Abini pulled out a carved wooden symbol, old, dark, and marked with ancient signs. It smelled of smoke and herbs. The air changed the moment it appeared. The guard gasped. "I am to tell the chief," Abini said, "that the land has spoken. The ancestors have counted the lies. What was taken in blood will return in truth." The guard's throat went dry. "Is that all?" Abini stepped closer, her eyes burning like firelight. "Tell him," she added, "that the new owner has arrived." Thunder rumbled far away, though the sky was clear. The guard ran inside without another word. Inside the compound, when the guard showed the symbol, Chief Dandolo stood up so fast his stool fell backward. "No," he whispered. His wife, Queen Salima, entered the room. She was dressed in fine cloth, gold shining at her neck. Her eyes were sharp and proud. "What is this noise?" she demanded. The chief did not answer. He stared at the symbol like it was a living thing. "That symbol was buried," Queen Salima said slowly. "Burn it." The guard shook his head. "I cannot touch it again." The drums outside grew louder. Queen Salima's face hardened. "Who is the woman?" The chief finally spoke, his voice low. "A ghost from the past." Outside, Abini turned away from the gate. Her message had been delivered. That was enough for tonight. She walked toward the forest path, where shadows waited. Fireflies danced around her like tiny spirits. The night sounds followed her, crickets, distant drums, leaves whispering her name. At the edge of the forest, an old woman stepped out. Her hair was white like ash. Her eyes glowed strangely in the dark. "You have returned at last," the woman said. Abini knelt. "Mother of spirits." The old woman smiled. "The land remembers you. But the people have forgotten. Are you ready?" Abini stood. Her face was calm, but her heart burned. "Yes," she said. "They will hear the truth. One by one." The wind rose, bending the tall grass. Somewhere deep in the forest, a horn sounded, low and ancient. Above the village, the moon hid behind clouds. And in the great compound, fear had finally found a home. Morning came, but peace did not return. The sun rose slowly over Cumorah, painting the sky with red and gold. Birds sang, yet their songs sounded nervous. The drums from the night before were silent, but their echo still lived in the hearts of the people. Word had spread. "She has returned," women whispered near the river. "The girl who was sent away," men murmured in the market. "The one the ancestors marked," the elders said quietly. No one spoke her name too loudly. Abini was now a spirit walking in daylight. Inside the great compound, Chief Dandolo did not sleep. His eyes were red. Sweat covered his forehead though the morning air was cool. The carved symbol sat wrapped in cloth on a stool, far from his throne. Even covered, it felt alive. Queen Salima watched him closely. "You fear too much," she said. "She is only a woman." The chief shook his head. "You did not see her eyes when she was younger. The ancestors touched her." Queen Salima laughed softly, but her fingers trembled. "The ancestors are quiet. Power speaks louder." She turned to a guard. "Summon the Council of Elders. Now." By midday, elders arrived, their walking sticks tapping the earth. They sat in a circle beneath the sacred baobab tree inside the compound. The air smelled of dust, sweat, and old fear. Chief Dandolo stood before them. "A woman came last night," he said. "She brought this." He uncovered the symbol. A sharp wind blew through the tree branches. Leaves fell though it was not their season. An elder named Baba Kori, oldest of them all, leaned forward. His eyes widened. "This mark," he whispered, "belongs to the first owners of the land." Murmurs spread. That line ended. Queen Salima snapped. The girl was cursed and cast out. Baba Kori shook his head slowly. "No." She was silenced. "There is a difference." The chief's voice grew hard. "What does this mean?" The elder closed his eyes. "It means the past has opened its eyes." Silence followed. Far from the compound, deep in the forest, Abini walked barefoot over soft leaves. Sunlight broke through tall trees like watching eyes. Birds followed her. The wind touched her skin gently, as if greeting her. She reached a clearing where stones stood in a circle. Old bones rested there. This was the shrine of forgotten blood. The white-haired woman from the night before waited there. Her name was Mara, the keeper between worlds. "You shook the village," Mara said. "That was only the knock," Abini replied. Mara smiled. "Today, the village will answer." She lifted a calabash filled with dark liquid and poured it onto the ground. The earth drank it quickly. "Listen," Mara whispered. The ground hummed softly. Abini felt it in her chest. Back in Cumorah, hunters returned early. Their traps were empty. One claimed he saw shadows moving without bodies. Another swore the river spoke his name. Children cried for no reason. By afternoon, fear ruled. A guard ran into the compound, breathless. "Chief! The eastern farms, crops have turned black." Queen Salima stood. "Burn incense. Call the priests." The priests came, beating drums and shaking rattles. Smoke filled the air. They sang loudly to cover their fear. But the drums cracked. The sound split like dry wood. The people screamed. At the village edge, Abini stood watching. Her face showed no joy, no anger. Only purpose. A young hunter named Cato approached her carefully. He had known her as a child. "Is it true?" he asked. "Did you bring this?" Abini looked at him. "I did not bring anything," she said. "What was buried has risen on its own." Cato swallowed. "They say you want the land." Abini's eyes turned to the distant compound. "The land already knows who owns it." Cato stepped back, fear and respect mixing in his chest. That evening, the elders demanded answers. The village gathered around the central fire. Flames danced high, lighting worried faces. Chief Dandolo arrived, dressed in full authority. Queen Selima walked beside him, chin high. Before anyone could speak, Mara entered the circle. Gasps followed. Some people fell to their knees. "The bridge has walked among you," an elder whispered. Mara's voice was calm but heavy. "You sent away truth and built power on lies." Queen Selima stepped forward. "This is madness. Guards!" No guard moved. Then Abini stepped into the firelight. The village froze. Drums began on their own, slow and deep. "I was born on this soil," Abini said. "My father bled for it. My mother was buried without honor." Whispers broke into cries. Chief Dandolo's face tightened. "You were weak. You had no proof." Abini raised her hand. The wind howled. Flames bent toward her. "The land is my proof," she said. A child screamed as the fire changed color, blue and gold. Elders covered their faces. Mara spoke again. "The truth will not rush. It will squeeze." That night, sleep refused everyone. In the compound, Queen Selima paced. "We must end her," she hissed. The chief stared into darkness. "If she falls, the land will scream." Queen Selima's eyes hardened. "Then we silence the scream." Outside, thunder rolled again. In the forest, Abini sat alone, eyes closed. The ancestors surrounded her like breath. The path had opened. And there was no turning back. The third night fell heavy over Cumorah. Clouds covered the moon, and darkness pressed close to the earth. The village fires burned low, afraid of what the night might bring. Dogs did not bark. Even insects held their breath. This was not a normal night. This was a night of remembering. Deep inside the great compound, Chief Dandolo sat with the elders again. No drums were allowed. No chants. Silence ruled. Baba Kori leaned on his staff. The ancestors do not shout without reason. They want truth uncovered. Queen Selima crossed her arms. "Truth is shaped by power." Baba Kori looked at her sadly. "Power shaped by lies always collapses." Before the chief could reply, a scream echoed from the far end of the village. A guard burst in. "Chief! The old burial ground. Something is happening." They rushed out. Torches lit the path to the forgotten burial ground near the river. Long ago, it had belonged to Abini's bloodline, before the land was taken. It was said no one should step there at night. The ground was moving. Bones pushed through the soil slowly, like fingers reaching for air. Skulls stared upward, empty eyes filled with firelight. The river nearby turned dark and silent. Women cried. Men dropped to their knees. Chief Dandolo's legs weakened. "This is her doing," Queen Selima whispered sharply. "No," Baba Kori said. "This is justice waking up." From the shadows, Abini appeared. She wore white cloth now, marked with red earth. Her hair was tied back. Her face was calm, but her eyes carried centuries. She stepped between the bones without fear. "These are my people," she said softly. The wind rose, carrying voices, low, broken whispers. Names long forgotten floated through the air. "My father," Abini continued, "was accused of betrayal he did not commit. He was killed here." A cry escaped from the crowd. "My mother begged for mercy. She was cast into the forest to die." Elders wept openly. Chief Dandolo fell to his knees. His voice shook. It was the council's decision. Abini looked at him. "You spoke loudest." Suddenly, the earth split open. From the crack, a hunter spirit rose, tall and glowing with blue fire. His chest bore a spear wound. Gasps filled the night. "That is," Barber Corey whispered. "My father," Abini said. The spirit lifted his head. His voice sounded like wind through dry grass. "Who stole my land?" he asked. No one answered. Queen Selima stepped forward, her voice sharp. "This is illusion." The spirit turned toward her. His eyes burned. "You wear stolen gold," he said. "You fed your children with blood." The ground trembled. Queen Selima screamed as her necklace snapped and fell into the dirt, turning black. The spirit raised his hand. "The truth is not finished." He faded back into the earth. Silence followed, thick and painful. Barber Corey stood. "The land demands a trial of truth." Murmurs spread fast. Chief Dandolo shook his head. "That trial is forbidden." "It is ancient law," the elder replied. "Older than kings." All eyes turned to Abini. "Do you accept?" Barber Corey asked. Abini nodded once. "I was born ready." The drums began again, slow, deep, unstoppable. The next morning, preparations began. The trial of truth would take place on Mount Ijala, where lies could not climb. Hunters sharpened spears. Women brewed sacred herbs. Priests painted symbols on stone. Queen Selima secretly gathered her guards. "If the trial begins," she said coldly, "we lose everything." Chief Dandolo looked away. His strength was leaving him. At sunset, Abini stood at the river, washing her hands. The water glowed faintly. Mara appeared beside her. "You will face more than people," Mara warned. "You will face fear." Abini met her eyes. "Fear has already faced me." That night, as the village slept uneasily, Queen Selima sent assassins into the forest. They did not return. By morning, their spears lay broken at the shrine. And the mountain waited. The road to Mount Ijala was narrow and steep. Red dust rose with every step, clinging to skin and cloth like memory that refused to leave. Tall rocks watched in silence, their shapes twisted like ancient faces. The procession moved slowly. Elders walked first, leaning on carved staffs. Hunters followed, spears shining. Villagers came behind in fearful silence. Drums beat softly, echoing against the mountain walls. At the center walked Abini. She wore white again, but this time black symbols crossed her arms and chest. Her feet were bare. Each step felt heavy, as if the land tested her strength. Chief Dandolo walked far behind, shoulders bent. Queen Selima walked beside him, her face calm, her eyes burning with plans. As they climbed higher, the air grew thin and cold. Wind howled through the rocks, carrying whispers that sounded like judgment. At the top of the mountain stood the Stone of Voices, a wide, flat rock cracked with age. This was where truth stripped all lies. Barber Corey raised his staff. "No weapon," he commanded. "No crown. No rank." Guards hesitated. Queen Selima smiled coldly. "Ancient rules for weak times." The wind answered her with a sharp howl. Reluctantly, weapons were laid down. The trial began. Mara stepped forward, her white hair flying wildly. "Let blood speak against blood," she said. "Let memory fight silence." She turned to Abini. "Call your truth." Abini stepped onto the Stone of Voices. "My father was accused," she said. "My mother was erased. I was cast away so others could sit on my land." The stone glowed faintly beneath her feet. Mara nodded. "Now let the accused speak." Chief Dandolo stepped forward slowly. His voice cracked. "I did what I had to do to protect this village," he said. "Power demands sacrifice." The stone darkened. Queen Selima clapped once. "This trial is theater. I speak now." She stepped onto the stone without fear. "I married into this land," she said proudly. "I saw weakness. I removed it." The mountain shook. A scream tore through the air. Queen Selima clutched her chest as the stone beneath her feet split open, releasing black smoke. Faces appeared in the smoke, crying, angry, accusing. She staggered back. The crowd gasped. "Lies cannot stand here," Mara said calmly. Suddenly, a shout rose from the villagers. A young man stepped forward. His hands shook. "It was her," he cried, pointing at Queen Selima. "She ordered my father's death when he questioned the land seizure." Another voice followed. Then another. Truth spilled like broken calabashes. Queen Selima screamed, "Silence them!" But no one moved. Chief Dandolo fell to his knees, sobbing. "I was afraid," he admitted. "I let her lead me." The stone glowed bright red. The wind grew violent. Abini closed her eyes. Pain and rage fought inside her. The ancestors whispered. Then the mountain answered. From the ground rose warrior spirits, armored in light and shadow. Their eyes burned with ancient fire. Drums thundered from nowhere. The spirits surrounded the stone. Mara's voice rang out. "Judgment comes." Queen Selima tried to run. The ground pulled at her feet like hands. She screamed as visions attacked her, every lie, every death, every betrayal. Her fine clothes turned to rags. Her hair fell loose. "Mercy," she cried. Abini opened her eyes. She stepped toward Queen Selima. The spirits waited. "You showed no mercy," Abini said softly. The wind fell silent. The spirits lifted their spears. But Abini raised her hand. "Not yet," she said. Shock rippled through the crowd. Mara looked at her closely. "Why stop it?" Abini's voice trembled, but she stood firm. "Because revenge without truth is another lie." The spirits lowered their spears. Queen Selima collapsed, broken. Mara nodded slowly. "The final judgment will come at the heart of the land." Mount Ijala released a deep groan. The trial was not finished. And the deepest wound had yet to open. Darkness returned before the sun fully set. Black clouds gathered above Cumorah, thick and heavy like a curse ready to fall. The wind screamed through the savannah, bending trees and tearing leaves from branches. Fires refused to stay lit. Even the drums went silent. This was the night of decision. From Mount Ijala, the people returned in fear and confusion. No one spoke. Every step felt watched. At the center of the village stood the sacred ground, a wide circle of earth older than any king. This was where ownership was sealed, not by words, but by blood and spirit. Mara stood at the edge, staff pressed into the soil. "The land will now choose," she said. "One will rise. One will fall." Queen Selima was dragged forward by guards. Her once proud face was broken, her eyes wild. Dust covered her body. Power had left her like smoke. Chief Dandolo followed, shaking like a leaf. Abini stepped into the circle last. The moment her foot touched the ground, the earth pulsed. A low hum spread outward. The people cried out in fear and awe. The drums began again, fast, violent, demanding. Mara lifted her hands. "Ancestors, speak." The wind roared. The ground cracked. From the soil rose shadows of the past, men, women, children, faces marked by pain. They surrounded the circle, watching silently. Chief Dandolo screamed and fell flat. "Forgive me." The shadows did not move. Queen Selima laughed suddenly, sharp and broken. "This is nonsense. I ruled with strength." The shadows turned toward her. A woman stepped forward from them. Her eyes were hollow. Her voice was ice. "My child starved under your orders." Another followed. "My husband was buried alive." The shadows pressed closer. Queen Selima's laughter turned to terror. "No, I am queen." Lightning struck the ground beside her. The land itself rejected the word. Mara spoke again. "Blood must answer blood." A spear of light rose from the earth and floated between Abini and Queen Selima. The crowd gasped. "This is the spear of claim," Mara said. "Only one may touch it." Queen Selima lunged first. The moment her fingers touched the spear, she screamed. Fire raced across her skin. Visions flooded her mind, every scream she ignored, every life she crushed. She collapsed, smoking, alive but destroyed. The spear fell. Abini stepped forward. She paused. Her hands trembled, not with fear, but with weight. She touched the spear. Light exploded. The wind stopped. The shadows bowed. The land sang. Abini cried out, not in pain, but release. The earth wrapped her feet gently. Warmth rose into her bones. Mara dropped to her knees. The land has chosen. Chief Dandalo crawled toward Abini. Spare me. Abini looked at him for a long moment. You ruled with fear, she said. You will live with it. The ground opened beneath him, not deep enough to kill, but deep enough to trap. The earth swallowed him to his chest. You will stay, Abini declared, until your lies rot from your mouth. The land sealed him there. Queen Selima tried to crawl away. The shadows closed in. They did not touch her. They only watched. And that was worse. Thunder rolled one last time. The clouds broke. Rain poured down, heavy, cleansing, unstoppable. The land had spoken. And the crown had changed hands. The rain fell through the night and into the morning. It washed blood from the sacred ground. It cooled the hot earth. It carried away fear like dust in a river. When the sun finally rose, Camorra looked new, clean, quiet, and unsure. The village woke slowly. People stepped outside their homes and touched the ground with open palms, as if greeting a living thing. Birds returned to the trees. The river flowed clear again. Even the air felt lighter. At the center of the sacred ground stood Abini. She wore no crown. No gold. Only a simple white cloth tied at her waist. Yet everyone felt her authority before she spoke. Mara stood beside her, leaning on her staff. The land has named its owner, Mara announced. But ownership is not rule. It is duty. The people bowed, not out of fear, but respect. Abini raised her hand gently. Stand, she said. We will not build this land on bent backs again. Murmurs of relief spread through the crowd. Chief Dandalo still lived, trapped in the earth near the old compound. His voice was weak now, cracked by thirst and shame. Children no longer feared his name. Queen Selima was gone. Some said she wandered the forest, chased by whispers. Others said the shadows took her into the mountain. No one searched. The land had judged her. Abini walked to the old compound gates. The same guard who had first met her stood there, eyes lowered. She never saw the surprise coming, he whispered. Abini looked at the walls built on stolen ground. They will fall, she said calmly. And they did. With a deep rumble, the walls cracked and sank into the earth. Dust rose, then settled. The compound was gone. In its place, green shoots pushed through the soil. The elders gathered beneath the baobab tree. Baba Kori stepped forward, tears in his eyes. We failed you, he said. Teach us. Abini nodded. We failed each other, she replied. Now we remember. She ordered the burial ground to be honored. Songs were sung for the forgotten. Names were carved into stone. Drums beat, not for war, but healing. Hunters shared their meat. Farmers reopened old fields. Children laughed again by the river. That night, a great fire burned at the village center. Stories were told, true stories, not the ones shaped by fear. The ancestors listened. Abini sat quietly, watching the flames dance. She felt her parents near, not as pain, but peace. Mara approached her. You have power, Mara said. Do not let it harden you. Abini met her eyes. I will lead by listening. The old woman smiled. Then the land will stay awake. Before dawn, Mara vanished into the forest, her work complete. Seasons passed. Camorra grew strong, not through force, but fairness. No voice was silenced. No land was taken in secret. Elders were questioned. Leaders were watched. Abini walked among the people, not above them. When disputes rose, she called the land to witness. And the land answered. One evening, Abini stood alone at the river. The water reflected the sky like glass. She spoke softly. Justice is not revenge, she said. It is balance. The wind carried her words. The ancestors whispered approval. Moral lesson. Power built on lies will always collapse. Land, truth, and justice remember their true owners. Those who steal through fear may rule for a season, but the earth itself will rise to return what was taken.